The last time I spoke was on perspective, and during those 2 weeks, it's like everything that I looked at was talking about perspective. It was speaking perspective. Even the movie that we went and watched last week was it was basically about perspective, what everybody saw from their own point of view, and then at the end, they saw how it all connected. And that's a lot of times that's kind of the way we are. We can only see one thing, what is right in front of us, what affects us, and a lot of times we're so preoccupied with that we see nothing else. We don't see who's going through what. You know, our neighbors, our friends could be going through something, and we just have no knowledge of it because we just don't see it. But today, I wanted to speak about messages, just things that we know, that we see, that we hear, and we understand is something speaking to us, or something trying to get our attention. In everything, there is a message. In our daily lives, we are bombarded with conflicting messages, so much so that we train ourselves to filter out those messages that do not appeal to us. We can only take in so much information at one time. For example, if I'm listening to news or shows, and sometimes Lauren tries to ask me a question or talk to me, sometimes I might filter her out unknowingly. But I'm playing the whole game of what did you say? Can you repeat that, please? A lot of times that's to my own detriment. So the flesh has a way of picking out what it wants to hear and discarding all other information. Why is this? In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 33, says, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace in all churches of the saints." Well, the enemy is the author of confusion, and we are the most susceptible when we are confused. In military strategy, the first targets are normally communication lines. Think about it. If we're in a spiritual war, which Brother Al talked about yesterday, being in a spiritual war and more battles to come, the first thing that they take out is the lines of communication. What was it like 100 years ago? We had God in our government buildings, at least in some form. We had God in our federally funded schools. We had media that promoted good, family-oriented fun and entertainment. All of these are a form of communication, training the next generation in the things of God. Now, fast forward to today, the enemy has taken out those communications. He's severed the supply of God's communication lines into our schools and federal buildings and government, and for the most part of our entertainment. Now that the communication's been taken out, we'll turn our attention to the thing that the enemy excels at: confusion, distraction, disinformation. Of course, with things like the internet, this is something that the people who sell ads, they love. You want to distract the customer, so they take notice. Big data. How many have heard that term? Google, Apple, Amazon. We all know these companies. Who enjoys watching commercials? One of these goals of these companies are called targeted ads. Let's imagine a situation, and this is kind of a silly situation I just kind of came up with off the top of my head this morning, but all right, it's 1990, and we have little Tommy sitting here watching his favorite superhero cartoon. Okay? The bad guy shows up, and a battle ensues. Now, just as the bad guy is getting the upper hand, it cuts to a commercial. Little Tommy is distraught. He doesn't know what's going on. What's going to happen next? As little Tommy is watching the colorful bird flying around on the screen trying to sell his sugar-filled cereal, he thinks, boy, I sure am hungry. What is going to happen to Frog Boy and his fantastic friends? All of a sudden, the next thing on the screen shows a new heroic adventure featuring the next big thing. It's Duckman and his never-ending battle against the evil goose guy. Whoa, little Tommy is hooked. Duckman has a cape and all kinds of cool gadgets hanging off his surprisingly equipped belt and everything. Duckman is set to come on next. In the next few minutes, little Tommy can see this cool guy on his new adventure. He can hardly wait. Who cares about Frog Boy now? So, in this silly situation, it's like commercials will distract us, and they're made to distract us. They're I mean, everything has a message in it. And so in this example, the ads worked in both respects. He was hungry because he saw the cereal ad, and he was hooked on Duckman. So distraction is paramount in the business of all types of media. The more attention you can get, the more effective the ad will be. Google and Amazon, companies like this, are working hard to try and show you ads that interest you so that you'll be sidetracked into buying a new video game or chewing gum or whatever. But the point of it is distractions take your focus off where it needs to be. So if your focus is supposed to be on Christ, then a distraction comes along, takes your focus off, you lose your way. You lose that strong foundation that you have because no longer are you focused on Christ, you're focused on this thing over here that's bright and shiny and new and cool and has a cape. But even in our music, our movies, magazines, not so much magazines anymore, but I mean, they still are a factor, but music and movies, especially movies, and these are things that all convey messages. And I know that when I was growing up, when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, high school, I listened to music, and I thought everybody would come up and say, "Why do you like that song?" And I was like, "Oh, I like the song because of the instruments. I like the guitar riff in there. I like the drums. I like this. I like that. And it was enticing." But when it got down to it, I wasn't really even listening to the words, and that's a distraction. But there's a message in that song. Even though we don't listen to the words, there's a message there, and it speaks to us. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're receiving this message. We're listening to all the bells and whistles, that sound nice, sound cool, and that's what I thought, and all my friends were listening to it, so why not I, and that was the same way with movies, it's just a fictional situation, and this is supposed to be the coolest movie ever. My friends have all seen it. I want to go see it. But in the end, what kind of message was it trying to convey, And a lot of these movies have just they're so blatant that they just make movies now that they just show nothing but pure evil. And I don't understand the attraction to them. I've never been attracted to those type of, like the, zombie movies and stuff like that. I've never been attracted to that kind of entertainment, even when I had no idea what it was trying to say. But now that I see it, there's such a message in that of death, of just brokenness, It's really a celebration of death, if you think about it. It's a celebration of sin, and if we partake in that, if we receive that message, if we go to that movie and we're saying, okay, this is just fiction, it's just a movie. What's it going to hurt? Well, we're sitting there, we're receiving that message. That's time that we could have been receiving a message from God, and that's time a message could be written on our hearts from in the form of truth, So the key is distracting you. I'm not saying that all internet companies or movies or music are tools of the enemy, but it's important to know that these messages are being hurled at us from all directions every day. We must focus ourselves on God and His Word to decipher these messages for ourselves and ask, what is this speaking to me? Is this of God, or is it of the enemy? If it seems that we are being bombarded and stressed out due to all the things that we are hearing and seeing, it is most likely intentional. I know that in sales, you learn that being a distraction is a good thing. I mean, what do they say, in sales? Location, wherever you put your stuff, make sure that it's going to, and my bosses have even said, make them trip over it. If they trip over it, they got to see it, and don't stick it off in the corner in the back of the store. They won't see it. Well, this is and they actually use this term. It's a point of interruption. And this is a sales term that they use. And that's an intentional distraction. And like I said, everything has a message. Uh, logos for companies. I've noticed that, and I've started to notice this more because once your eyes kind of get open to these things, it kind of you start seeing messages in everything. The actually David posted on Facebook this past week about Adam and Eve, being the first ones not to read the terms of service of Apple agreement, and I thought, wait a minute. The Apple logo, it's an Apple logo, but it's got a bite out of it, and I'm thinking that could be a message right there, that could be right in our face, and billions of people walk around with the Apple logo in their back pocket. What is that trying to say? It could be intentional, it could not be. It could be that they didn't intend that message to come through, but it's still there, and I was talking to Lauren the other day about the Starbucks logo, and that's a picture. That the logo is a picture of a siren. It's a siren of it's a mermaid with two tails or whatever, and it's a siren. Well, sirens were made to lure sailors to their death. That was the whole folklore about the sirens. And a lot of these logos. I mean, if you get to looking at some of these logos, I mean, some of them are just in your face, and some of them are so deceptive that it just glosses over. But my point is, there's a message in everything, and I think that we have a choice to hear what we want to hear, and the problem is we have to start closing some of those doors to hear the truth. To hear the message that we need to hear, not the message that looks the most appealing, that tries to distract us. If something's jumping off the shelf, it's kind of like what they always say, it's too good to be true. It's too good to believe, and a lot of times it is. There's a little asterisk down there. It says free with the purchase of something else, and it's kind of like, okay, I can walk in and get this drink. No, you got to buy a burger to get the drink for free. Okay, well, the message that was there, obvious message, free, in big letters, but a lot of times we're distracted. We don't see the little asterisk. We don't see the little hidden message there that there's a disclaimer. You may get this for free, but it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you something else. You may not have to buy this, but you'll have to pay for that to get that. So, in James chapter 3, verse 13. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you, let him show out of a good conversation his works and meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For the envying and strife there is confusion in every evil work. But the wisdom that is far above is first pure, then peaceful, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. So, confusion is intentional, and confusion is to distract us, and distraction is to get our focus off of God. And yeah, if you go out here today and look, you'll see points of interruption, and every day you will see points of interruption. They'll be so blatant, sometimes you'll trip over them. Sometimes you'll just shrug it off, and it's just a song, it doesn't really mean anything. I like the lyrics a little bit, and I like the guitar in there. He's a pretty good guitarist, but these type of things, movies can be used as a very deceptive tool, or it could be used as a very praiseworthy tool. I know that the movie that we saw last week, I thought, after we saw it, I thought, there was hardly any advertising for this movie. I saw some on Facebook, but that was about it, and God's Not Dead, there was advertising for 6 months or so, and in advance, and I thought, how, I didn't even know that movie was out, you know. And when we went and saw it, I thought that is a powerful movie, you know. And talking about the cross this morning, or singing about the cross, that was a main focal point of that movie, you know. As they all throughout it, they had the cross everywhere, you know. It was just about in every scene, and in the whole movie was seeing perspective from the cross, you know, is seeing what was paid there, and what how we should look at situations instead of being buried in our own lives and our own perspectives. And uh, and I thought that you know, if this was more well advertised, more people would have probably went and seen it. You know, it's unfortunate that it wasn't advertised, but there again, you know, you got to get it in people's faces, and it's got to be a point of interruption. That's about all I have on that for today. But like I said, test the messages that we receive each and every day. If it's a song and it's speaking of death and destruction, then there you go. You know, if it's a song and it's speaking of praise and honor to God, then it's clear. But sometimes it's not so clear, and we have to test those messages that we're bombarded with every day. Because if we don't, then those messages will seep in. They will find a crack, and they will start influencing us. And influence is a big issue with friends and family and everything. And I just think we need to be careful what we consume, what we see, what we watch, what we listen to, because if we're not, we're just going to be deceived and confused, really, about what the truth and what the true message is.